12 minutes. Lieutenant Sarah Torres knelt in front of 3 interconnected improvised explosive devices in a crowded Kabul marketplace. 350 Afghan civilians surrounded her, frozen in fear. The timer counted down. 12 minutes before detonation. Her team's voice crackled through the radio. "Torres, abort! Evacuate the market and detonate remotely." Remote detonation meant 350 civilians would die. Sarah looked at the most complex IED configuration she had ever seen. 3 bombs daisy-chained together, red wires, blue wires, anti-tamper switches. One wrong move and everything explodes. Her hands hovered over the wire cutters. They had always told her, women's hands shake under pressure, too nervous for bomb disposal. 12 minutes, 3 bombs, 350 lives. Sarah's hands were rock steady. She was about to prove them all wrong. Eglin Air Force Base, Florida, 5 years earlier. Sarah Torres stood in the training facility, staring at her first practice IED. She was 24 years old and one of 3 women in the Explosive Ordnance Disposal School. "Torres, you're up," the instructor called. She approached the device. A simple configuration, 3 wires, 1 timer, basic pressure plate. In training, mistakes didn't kill anyone, but her hands trembled, just slightly, a barely visible shake as she reached for the wire cutters. The instructor saw it. Everyone saw it. "Hold," he said sharply. "Torres, step back." She stepped away from the device. The instructor addressed the class. "This is why EOD has the highest washout rate in the military. 90% of candidates fail. And this is why." He pointed at Sarah's hands. "Hands that shake don't cut wires. Hands that shake kill people." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Sir, I can do this." "Your hands were shaking, Torres." "Yes, sir. Because it was my first device. Give me another chance." The instructor shook his head. "In the field, you don't get another chance. 1 shake, 1 wrong cut, and you're dead. Your team is dead. Civilians are dead." After class, the male trainees gathered in the hallway. Sarah heard them clearly. They wanted her to hear. Women shouldn't be in EOD. Too emotional, too nervous. Shaky hands get people killed. That night, Sarah returned to the training facility alone. She requested access to a practice device. The night supervisor, a former EOD tech, let her in. "You sure about this?" he asked. "I need to fix my hands." "Torres, everyone's hands shake the first time. That's normal. Then I'll practice until it's not the first time anymore." For 3 months, Sarah practiced every night. The same device, over and over. Different configurations, different wire colors, different pressure plates. Her hands stopped shaking. By graduation, she could disarm any training device faster than anyone in her class. Her hands moved with machine-like precision, the instructor noticed. At the graduation ceremony, he pulled her aside. "Torres, I was wrong about you." "No, sir, you were right. My hands did shake, but I fixed them." He studied her for a moment. "Afghanistan deployment. You ready?" Sarah met his eyes. "My hands are ready, sir." Kabul, Afghanistan. 2 years later. Sarah stepped off the C-130 transport into the dusty heat of Bagram Air Base. She was 26 now, and this was her first combat deployment. The EOD team leader, Captain Mike Reeves, met her at the hangar. "Lieutenant Torres, welcome to Kabul. You're assigned to our disposal team." "Thank you, sir." Reeves looked her over. "I read your file. Top scores at Eglin. Fastest wire cuts in your class. Impressive." "Just doing my job, sir." "Your job here is different than training. Real IEDs, real Taliban bomb makers, real consequences." He paused. "You ever frozen in the field?" "No, sir." "Good. Because out here, freezing gets you killed." The first month was routine disposal calls, roadside IEDs, abandoned ordnance, suspicious packages. Sarah handled each one with the precision she'd trained for. The team began to trust her. Sergeant Jackson, a veteran EOD tech, worked with her on a complex device near the Pakistani border. 6 wires, dual triggers, mercury switch. Torres, you're the lead. Walk me through it. Sarah studied the device. Mercury switch means tilt sensitive. We stabilize first, then disable the primary trigger, then cut the mercury circuit. And if you cut the mercury circuit first? Boom, Jackson smiled. You know your stuff. Proceed. Sarah disarmed the device in 8 minutes. Textbook perfect. Jackson reported back to Reeves. She's solid, hands like a surgeon. But not everyone was convinced. Staff Sergeant Carter, another EOD tech, was blunt. She's good in controlled situations, but when chaos hits, when civilians are screaming, when Taliban are shooting, we'll see if she can handle it, Reeves asked. You doubt her ability? I doubt any rookie's ability in real pressure. And women? Carter shrugged. They're wired differently, more emotional. When emotions hit, hands shake. She hasn't shaken yet. Give it time, Carter said. We all shake eventually. 3 months into the deployment, Sarah had disarmed 47 IEDs, 0 mistakes, 0 shakes. Her reputation grew. Other teams requested her for complex devices, but Kabul was relatively quiet that year. No major incidents, no true test. And then, one Saturday morning, everything changed. The call came through at 0847 hours. Multiple IEDs detected. Kabul Grand Market, estimated 300 civilians on site, immediate response required. The team loaded into the MR app and rolled out. Captain Reeves briefed them en route. Intelligence says 3 devices, daisy chain configuration, unknown timer. If one goes, they all go. Sarah checked her tools, wire cutters, multimeter, fiber optic scope, disruptor. Carter looked at her. You ready for this, Torres? This isn't training. This is 300 real people. Sarah met his gaze. My hands are ready. Let's hope so. The Kabul Grand Market was chaos. 350 civilians, men, women, children, crowded between market stalls selling fabric, food, electronics. Afghan National Police were trying to evacuate, but the exits were narrow and people were panicking. Captain Reeves assessed the scene. 3 IEDs confirmed, all visible, all active. Timer mechanism on the first device shows 12 minutes. Sarah studied the devices through binoculars from 50 meters away. Her stomach sank. This wasn't a training configuration. This was a master bomb maker's work. 3 devices positioned in a triangle pattern, red wire linking them, daisy chain. If one detonated, the shock wave would trigger the others. The first device had a digital timer visible. 11:34, 11:33, 11:32. Torres assessment, Reeves ordered. Daisy chain configuration with master trigger, 3 anti-tamper switches per device, timer on the primary. Can you disarm it? Sarah didn't answer immediately. She studied the wiring through the scope. Complex, more complex than anything she'd seen. Torres, yes or no? Yes, sir, but it'll take time. How much time? 10 minutes, maybe 12. Reeves looked at the timer, 11:18. We don't have 12 minutes. Carter stepped forward. Sir, recommendation. Evacuate the market immediately and detonate remotely. Evacuation will take 20 minutes. We have 11. Then we blow it now. Controlled detonation. Clear the blast radius as much as possible. Reeves's jaw tightened. That's 350 civilians. They can't all get out in time. Better some casualties than total annihilation. Sarah spoke quietly. I can disarm it. Carter turned. Torres, you heard yourself. 12 minutes. We have 10. I said maybe 12. I can do it faster. This isn't training. One wrong cut? I know. Reeves studied her. Torres, this is your call. If you think you can do it, I'll give you the chance. But if you fail, you die. And so do 300 people. Sarah looked at the market. Mothers holding children. Old men clutching prayer beads, shopkeepers frozen in fear, her hands not shaking. "Give me the suit." Carter grabbed her arm. "Torres, listen, I've been doing this for 8 years. I've seen the best EOD techs freeze when civilians are watching. The pressure is different. Your hands will shake." Sarah pulled her arm free. "Mine won't." She suited up. 80 pounds of Kevlar and armor plating. The helmet's visor, muffled sound, narrowed vision. The walk to the first device felt like a mile. 350 pairs of eyes watching. Radio crackle, "Torres, you have 10 minutes 40 seconds. She knelt in front of the first bomb. Breathe, focus, remember training. The device was exactly as she'd seen through the scope, but worse. 7 wires, not 3. 2 hidden anti-tamper switches. Her hands reached for the wire cutters. Steady. "Torres, 9 minutes. She clipped the first safety wire. The device stayed silent. 1 down, 6 to go. The first bomb had 7 wires. Sarah isolated the primary circuit, red wire connected to the timer, but cutting the red wire without disabling the anti-tamper switches would trigger the explosion. She needed to neutralize the switches first. Radio. 8 minutes 30 seconds. Her hands moved methodically. First anti-tamper switch, pressure-based. She slid a thin metal shim underneath, equalizing the pressure. Disabled. Second switch, mercury tilt sensor. She carefully inserted stabilizing foam around the mercury vial, preventing any movement. Disabled. Now the red wire. Wire cutters positioned. Click. The timer stopped. 8:12. First bomb neutralized. Radio. "Torres, good work. 2 remaining. You have 8 minutes. She moved to the second device, 15 meters away. The crowd parted silently as she walked past. A mother clutched her daughter close. The little girl stared at Sarah with wide eyes. Sarah knelt at the second bomb. This one was worse. 9 wires, 3 anti-tamper switches, and a secondary trigger linked to the third device. If she cut wrong here, the third device would detonate immediately. Radio. 7 minutes. Her breathing was steady inside the helmet. Sweat dripped down her forehead, but her hands, perfectly still. First anti-tamper switch, magnetic sensor. She used a degausser to neutralize the magnetic field. Disabled. Second switch, vibration sensor. She injected expanding foam into the cavity, dampening all vibration. Disabled. Third switch, photoresistor, light sensitive. She carefully covered it with an opaque shield. Disabled. Now the wiring. 9 wires, red, blue, green, yellow, black, white, orange, brown, gray. Which one linked to the third device? Her training. Secondary triggers usually use redundant colors, red or blue. But this bomb maker was smart. He might reverse convention. 6 minutes 40 seconds. She traced the wires with her fiber optic scope. The red wire connected to the timer. The blue wire connected to nothing. Decoy. The green wire connected to the third device. If she cut green first, the third device would detonate. She needed to cut the red timer wire, then immediately cut the green connector wire before the signal reached the third device. 2 cuts. 1 second. Radio. 6 minutes. Sarah positioned both wire cutters, left hand on red, right hand on green, simultaneous cuts. She squeezed both handles. Click, click, second device neutralized. Radio. Torres, 2 down, 1 remaining, 5 minutes 40 seconds. She stood, walked to the third device. This was the master trigger, the most complex, and she had less than 6 minutes. The crowd was silent. Even the police had stopped shouting. 350 people, 1 bomb, 5 minutes. Sarah knelt. Her hands didn't shake. The third device was a masterpiece of explosive engineering. 12 wires, 4 anti-tamper switches, a backup timer, and a pressure release trigger. If Sarah lifted the bomb even slightly, it would detonate. Radio. 4 minutes 50 seconds. Captain Reeves's voice cut through. "Torres, this is taking too long. Abort and fall back." "Negative. I'm finishing this." "That's an order, Torres." "Sir, if I leave now, this device stays live. The backup timer will detonate it in 4 minutes. Everyone dies." Silence. Then work fast. Sarah assessed the switches. First, pressure plate underneath. She carefully slid a rigid support plate beneath the device, transferring the weight. Disabled. Second switch, trembler switch, motion sensitive. She injected epoxy resin into the mechanism, freezing it in place. Disabled. Radio. 3 minutes. Third switch, radio receiver. If someone transmitted on the trigger frequency, the bomb would detonate. She deployed a portable RF jammer. Signal blocked. Disabled. Fourth switch, chemical fuse. A vial of acid slowly eating through a wire. When the wire dissolved, the circuit completed and the bomb detonated. She examined the vial through her scope. The acid had nearly eaten through. Maybe 90 seconds before the wire failed. Radio. 2 minutes 30 seconds. She couldn't disable the chemical fuse without triggering it. She had to disarm the primary circuit before the acid wire dissolved. 12 wires. Which one was the primary? Her training. Master triggers typically use the highest gauge wire for the primary circuit. She identified it, thicker blue wire. But wait, the thicker wire could also be the decoy. A good bomb maker would make the obvious choice the wrong choice. Radio. 2 minutes. She traced the blue wire with her scope. It connected to the detonator, but so did the thin red wire. 2 potential primary circuits. One was real. One was a decoy that would trigger the bomb if cut. Radio. 1 minute 40 seconds. Her mind raced. Training scenarios, patterns, Taliban bomb maker signatures. This bomb maker preferred redundancy over deception. The obvious choice was usually the real choice. Blue wire. But what if she was wrong? Radio. 1 minute. The crowd behind her was praying. She heard them through her helmet. Her hands positioned the wire cutter on the blue wire. Reeves's voice. Torres, 60 seconds. If you're wrong, I know. 50 seconds. She looked at the red wire one more time. No. Blue was correct. She felt it. 40 seconds. Wire cutters closed around the blue wire. 30 seconds. Her hands, steady as stone. 20 seconds. She squeezed. The wire cut. The timer stopped. 0:47, 47 seconds remaining. Silence. Then applause. The crowd erupted. 350 voices shouting, cheering, crying. Sarah stood slowly, the weight of the bomb suit suddenly overwhelming. Radio. Torres, confirm. All devices neutralized. Confirmed. All clear. She walked back through the market. People reached out to touch her suit, her hands. An old Afghan man grabbed her gloved hand and kissed it, tears streaming down his face. Captain Reeves met her at the perimeter. Torres, that was the most impressive EOD work I've ever seen. She removed her helmet. Her face was drenched in sweat. Sir, permission to sit down. I think my legs are shaking now. Reeves smiled. Permission granted. Sergeant Carter approached, quiet. Torres, I was wrong about you. Your hands never shook. Sarah looked at her hands, steady, calm. They wanted to, she said quietly. I just didn't let them. Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. 6 months later. Sarah Torres stood in the back of the EOD training facility, watching a young female candidate approach her first practice IED. The trainee's name was Rodriguez, 23 years old, nervous eyes. She knelt in front of the device, reached for the wire cutters. Her hands trembled. The instructor stopped her. Rodriguez, your hands are shaking. Sir, I can do this. Shaking hands don't cut wires. Step back. Rodriguez stood, defeated. The instructor addressed the class. This is why most candidates fail. Fear, nerves, shaking hands. Sarah stepped forward from the back of the room. Excuse me, sir. May I? The instructor turned, recognized her. Lieutenant Torres, didn't know you were observing today. I'm the new instructor, starting next week. Mind if I work with Rodriguez? She's all yours. Sarah approached Rodriguez. Show me your hands. Rodriguez extended her hands. They trembled slightly. Good, Sarah said. Rodriguez blinked. Good? You're aware of the shake. That's the first step. Sarah held out her own hands. Look, her hands were perfectly steady. You think mine don't shake? They're not shaking now, Sarah smiled. That's because there's no bomb in front of me. Put a real device in front of me, with a real timer and real lives at stake. My hands remember what fear feels like. But in Kabul, my hands didn't have time to shake. That's the secret. She knelt beside the practice device. Everyone's hands shake when they're afraid. That's biology. You can't stop fear, but you can outrun it. Rodriguez knelt beside her. Sarah handed her the wire cutters. The shake comes from thinking, from hesitation, from asking, what if I'm wrong? How do I stop thinking? You don't. You think faster. Sarah pointed at the device. Look at this configuration. 3 wires. What's your analysis? Red to timer, blue to detonator, green to ground. Correct. Which do you cut first? Red. Disable the timer. Good. Now cut it. Right now. Don't think. Don't second guess. Trust your analysis and move. Rodriguez positioned the cutters. Her hands shook. Faster, Sarah said, before the shake catches up. Rodriguez squeezed. Click. The practice timer stopped. Her hands, they hadn't shaken during the cut. Only before. See? Sarah said. The shake lives in the hesitation. Cut faster than you hesitate, and the shake never happens. Rodriguez stared at her hands, amazed. That evening, Sarah sat alone in the training facility office, reviewing training schedules. She held her hands out in front of her. They trembled, slightly, barely visible. They always did when she wasn't working. When there was no urgency, no device, no timer. 5 years later, and her hands still shook. But no one knew. Because when it mattered, when 350 lives depended on steady hands, she had learned the secret. Move faster than fear. Think faster than doubt. Cut faster than the shake. She smiled, put her hands down, and returned to her paperwork. Tomorrow she'd teach another class of trainees the same lesson. Perfect isn't steady hands. Perfect is hands that finish the job before the shake begins.